Time now to take a look at the news and the week's headlines that made stories all week long in our Reporters Rewind. Our guests at the round table are June Scott. She is the culture critic for Slate.com, as well as Roy Johnson, who is journalist for the blog Baller Games and Scoundrels. Ooh, that sounds great. Roy is also a former editor and columnist for ESPN.com. And Coach Felicia Scott is a weekly columnist for Essence.com and a self-proclaimed personal wealth strategist. So I'd like to talk to you more after the show. Welcome to all of you. Welcome back to the Reporter Roundtable, June. And welcome to Roy and Felicia. We do appreciate it. All right, let's get going because we got a lot to talk about. Let's first of all start with, it really isn't funny, but I just kind of have to laugh at the Toronto mayor. This whole story. So you all kind of,
You have
chuckle.
to laugh. You really have to laugh.
It's so ridiculous, right?
I mean, it's clear that not only does this guy, Rob, need rehab, but he also kind of needs a dietitian too. I mean, this is a man who does everything to excess. And clearly he has a problem. And
you went there right away.
I did. I mean, we don't have much time, so why waste it? And it's been clear. He admits that he goes to excess when he starts to drink. And when you do that, you put yourself in position to do things like what? Smoke crack. So he has a problem. Let's deal with it. If he's a decent mayor, if he does the things that the city and the people of that city need for him to do, he needs to handle himself first.
The most outrageous thing to me about this, or one of the most outrageous, was his excuse for smoking crack was that he was in a drunken stupor, as if that's an excuse.
Well, that points to another possible addiction issue is, if he has a problem with alcohol. So it's still, there's an issue that he needs to deal with.
Mm-hmm. But his popularity has increased since the rumors of his crack use started. And so it proves that, the people, it's almost as if people are align themselves with him because he's an outsider. So outsiders feel that he's one of them. And it's almost like the more trouble he gets in, the more they relate to him.
Even after the release of this video, if you haven't seen the video, he's parading around this room. It looks like a hotel room, talking about how he's going to kill somebody and he wants 5 minutes. No, give me 10 minutes to take them out. So clearly, this is someone who has anger issues, anger management issues. Like I say, does everything to excess. And it's when you do that, at some point, it's going to blow up on you.
Of course, you can't talk about smoking crack and being a mayor of a city without bringing up Marion Barry, former mayor of Washington, D.C. Don't act surprised by that, right? Well, I'm just saying, it's what we think of here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And of course, he was reelected to that position. He did lose the mayorship, but then was elected as an alderman, for the city council. So the citizens of Washington, D.C. were very forgiving, but that was a different time. So here's my question for discussion. If this were to happen to a mayor in a U.S. city, would his unpopularity or her popularity increase?
I think it depends on the city. I mean, again, Toronto is the fourth largest city in North America, something that I think many of us don't realize. More than half of the population was born outside the country. So it's a city that's changing a lot. And I think that for a lot of people, he represents change. And so people really relate to him in a way that I think it's hard for outsiders to understand.
And at the end of the day, it depends on what he does for the people of that city or what she may do for people of that city. Because people are mostly concerned about jobs. They're concerned about their own wages. So while it is headlines when someone does this, there are people who will say throw him out. But for the most part, if a mayor or if any politician is doing right by the citizens of that city, it will be able to weather the storm as long as they react the right way.
I don't necessarily think it would fly here in the U.S. I still think we expect some sort of moral leadership, and we expect our leaders to kind of set a standard. So I don't necessarily think it would fly. I can't think of an American city it will work in.
And one more little intriguing thing about this, and then we'll move on to another topic, and that is if this mayor were a woman and guilty of these same things, would we chuckle about it and would we be so forgiving? Or would they be so forgiving?
I can't imagine that. I mean, I can't imagine either that a woman who had gone to such lengths that she was able to be elected would even consider it. I think
we're not that dumb,
opportunity abuse, equal opportunity laughter.
I think she would have to be out. I think she would have to be so boring to get elected that she wouldn't even think of doing any such thing. She'd be working from dawn to dusk and then going home to her cat.
It's just an incredible story. It really is.
Going home to her cat?
There goes that stereotype. Well, let's hope that if it's necessary that he gets the help that he needs. Okay, let's move on and talk about another big story. We've talked about it every day on Arise America this week, and that is the NFL bullying story, the alleged case of Jonathan Martin accusing Richie Incognito of bullying him in the locker room. So many twists and turns on this. I'm going to start with you, Roy, obviously. What are your thoughts?
Well, as you said, there's so many layers to this. We really don't have time to discuss them all. So let me focus on two of them. One, of course, is bullying, which is a national epidemic. And there are some people who are saying, of course, that Jonathan Martin should have slugged Incognito. He should have reacted differently. What message are we sending to the thousands of young people who are enduring bullying on a regular basis, that they should react with violence? No, I don't think that's the message we want to send. So bullying is bullying, no matter whether it occurs in the workplace, in the school, or in that cave atmosphere called the NFL locker room. So I think that from a bullying standpoint, let's make sure we send the right message and say that Jonathan Martin reacted in an intelligent way. The other thing is, are we still having this discussion about blackness, and that there are some ex-teammates who said that Richie Incognito, who was thrown off of 2 college teams, who was called a scumbag, if I may say that, by one of his rookie teammates, who has been thrown off of teams because he's a cancer in the locker room, is somehow more black than a player who grew up with 2 parents who went to Harvard, who is thoughtful, who went to my alma mater, Stanford. It's amazing and depressing to me that we're still having this conversation about blackness. You don't hear white people saying they're less white because they're poor or because they grew up like Mitt Romney. White is white, so black is black. It's our cultural experience, not where we came from.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Now I wonder, for you, Alicia, and you, June, as women hearing about this story, because as a woman, I think about, these are these big, tough, macho, testosterone-driven NFL players, and, how could he really be bullied? Why didn't he just stand up for himself?
Bullying is not necessarily physical, it's psychological.
Sure.
And, what I see taking place is the classic frenemies. And women, we do the frenemy stuff, quite often. You have the friend, you hang out with her, and you go to lunch, you do whatever, but the relationship itself tears you down. There's the cattiness, there's the undermining, and that's what existed in their relationship. So, again, bullying is not about being physical, it's about the mind, and you can't tear someone down in their mind. And he was in a culture that reinforced, the negative behavior. So how do you feel like you can get out and have an outlet, or, have something different transpire?
Doesn't it seem to you, June, that there's more to this story than we know yet?
I'm afraid of that, because there have been so many twists and turns, as you've said, and so many aspects that are so rich and that are so give us so much to talk about. It's one of those gifts to the journalistic profession, I must say.
Oh yeah, it's given us something to talk about all week long.
Oh, absolutely, and I think there will be more. I mean, what is set up here is a classic case of a hostile workplace.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
What happens with Jonathan Martin, I believe he will come back and play in the NFL, probably not in Miami, but that is a cesspool down there that lacks leadership and needs to be flushed. So I wouldn't be surprised if Incognito is gone from there. They've already pretty much stated that he will be. And it may go up as high as the coaches, who showed no leadership in trying to manage that culture.
If they want to make an example, they'll just get rid of Incognito, but if they actually want to make a statement and make a change, they will take it higher.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I want to come back and ask you this question, and I asked this of a former Dolphin player yesterday who was on our show. Could Jonathan Martin come back and play on this team? Don't you think this team is poisoned for him now? And I'm wondering if other NFL players might also reject him the way his teammates have.
Well, put yourself in a situation where you come from a hostile workplace environment. It is difficult to go back to that environment. You may want to find a job somewhere else. I do, however, think that other locker rooms will welcome him. This is a talented young man, clearly has the capability of playing at this level, just establishing himself. I don't get the sense that this is pervasive yet around the NFL. Yes, there's hazing and buying some dinners, but not the $30,000 dinners, and certainly not the vulgarity that we heard coming from Incognito. There may be friends, but there's not a friend that I have that can say the things that Incognito allegedly said.
Well, as my grandma would say, keep living, because I think there is more to know. We will see. I want to thank June Thomas, Roy Johnson, and Felicia Scott. Thanks. Coach Felicia, you wanted to be called. Thank you so much. Come back to the Reporters Rewind table anytime.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're watching Arise America.